I got a headline here, The Guardian, right? Trump's get tough. Policy on China is counterproductive.
Yeah.
What do you think about the way the president is dealing with I guess the deficits? Let's
trade
talk about
deficit.
trade deficit
Yeah.
first. Yeah, the trade deficit. His approach to sort of normalizing that, balancing that. Is he on the right track?
You have to separate the means from the ends here. Let's start by what the end is. China, for its size, is definitely the most protectionist country in the world. In many ways, it's still an emerging economy. It's still growing very rapidly. There's still a lot of hundreds of millions of people in China who are just living on subsistence farms who someday should be in cities. So they're still an emerging economy. They're huge. Their average tariff rate is something in the 10% range. It's got a 10 handle. Our average tariff rate is the second lowest in the world after Australia. Ours has a 3 handle. Our economies are about the same size. I'm a real believer in free trade. I believe it creates wealth, and I believe it's the morally right thing to do. Because I like freedom, and I like trade, so I must like free trade. China is interfering with free trade more than we are. So we have this asymmetry between us. We have this gradient. Now, we all learned in high school economics that the reason trade is good was first set forward hundreds of years ago by John Stuart Mill and David Ricardo, who had this little thought experiment. Let's say there are these 2 islands that aren't communicating with each other. They both make cheese and wine. This one's really good at cheese, not so good at wine. This one's really good at wine, not so good at cheese. Now, if they can just trade with each other, then the one that's good at wine can just make wine. And the one that's better at cheese can just make cheese and stop making the bad wine. Then they trade with each other. So now they have more wine and more cheese because the efficient producers of it are specializing in it. People think that Trump is stupid, that when he got his business degree at Wharton, that somehow he missed this little story about the islands, and so he's messing up that trade by putting tariffs in the way. That's not what Trump's thinking at all. What Trump's saying is, yeah, I read those stories in the textbooks. Did you? Because the whole reason it works is because the islands trade with each other without tariffs. Now here's this island called China that has all these tariffs. So we're supposed to buy their wine, but they won't buy our cheese. That's not what it said in the textbook.
No, absolutely not. And no objection on that, by the way. But, I mean, do you agree that their policies, their trade, they hurt everyone, obviously, but they disproportionately hurt their own people, right? Because they're cut off not only from us, like if you say it's the,
yes,
right? They're cut off from everyone.
Yes, free trade is good, so the Chinese policies are hurting China more than anybody else.
So should American policy hurt Americans in an attempt to unwind this bad policy?
Okay, now we're talking about the difference between means and ends.